Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Just talking about the Pentel brush pen. A couple of things about this. That's obviously the cap. And then this little part here, this actually can unwind here, and then inside is going to be your cartridge. So these just pop on and off, just like that. And it's going to have a little plastic seal on it, and then there's a little sort of this little piece inside of that will actually puncture this. So when you press down, you got to press kind of firmly. You'll hear it kind of snap or click, and you'll see the arrow pointing towards it. So you just push it in, give it a twist, and then you'll hear it kind of pop. It doesn't make a loud pop sound, but you can feel it sort of break. Then you just slide this back over, wind it back on, and then this part, the brush bristle will actually be white when you start. So then you have to hold it upside down, and the ink will start to flow into that brush tip there. So then once you have waited long enough, it takes a little while, it can take a few minutes for the ink to actually fill through the entire bristle. And then what you do, you can just kind of get the flow going. So it takes a little while to get the ink flow going, to where it's like nice and smooth. And the thing with the brush pen is that you want to make sure that you're never going against the brush. You don't push against it like that, because that'll just destroy the bristle. You want to always pull. So you're always pulling the line. So as you pull the line, I haven't used these in a while, but and then it's all about the control, the pressure. So the more pressure you put on it, you're going to get a much thicker line. But you can do these really nice, if you got a lot of control, you can get these real nice little sort of wispy detailed lines in there. So really it's just experimenting, going from thick to thin. And the really great thing about the brush pen is it really holds its point, and it's an actual like synthetic bristle. It's not the foam tip. So because of that, you get real nice line, and it's always consistent. Whereas the foam tip, after some time, it'll actually wear out, and then it starts to fray. So these won't do that. So they're really great, durable pen that'll hold its bristle. And so you can just, practice going thick to thin. It's all about the pressure and the application. So as you get more comfortable with that, you can just really do really awesome things with this pen in terms of sketching and things. Also, you want to kind of move a little bit slower. It kind of depends on the paper you're using also. If it's a really absorbent paper, then what's going to happen is it's going to give you that sort of dry brush looking thing, if you go really fast. So you kind of almost have to do a very deliberate sort of line to it if you want it to be nice and sort of a rich black. So you have to do more of this sort of slow, deliberate line, like that. And then you end up with this much richer line. But sometimes people like this brushy sort of thing. So if you want to go faster, you can do kind of this like more sketchy sort of thing to it, which is also kind of fun. But some people don't like that dry brush effect. So it just depends again on the speed of the movement and the line you're putting down. So again, that's pretty much the basics of it. You don't want to push against it, because if you push down and you go like that, you're going to fray the bristles out. And then you're just always pulling the line, pulling against the brush, the direction of the brush. So if I'm drawing like a hand or something, or a fingertip, you're always pull the bristle going this way. So pulling. Always going against, and then like again, you can get these real nice little detailed sort of lines in there if you start to control it. It's very light touch. You can get some pretty good detail lines in there. So you can see here, real thin lines. And just one last thing, obviously depending on the size that you're working. So if you have a bigger image, obviously you're going to get more detail in this. so you're going to have kind of a varied sort of effect to it. Whereas if you're working smaller, it's a little harder to control it. So these are really even better for, like, you know, working a little larger, like 9 by 12, something like that. Because if you're trying to do teeny tiny, like little, you know, you have like a 2-inch little square like this, that's going to be real difficult to draw, like down in here with a lot of detail, obviously. But so, I mean, you can still try to do it. It's just, it takes a lot of concentration and a lot of control over the brush to draw that small. So they're really better suited for a little bit larger drawings, 5 by 7 and up. One last thing to note, you can actually buy these, the refills, off of Amazon. It's these FP10s, Japanese, and they come out like that. So you can actually buy these on Amazon pretty cheap, the refills. People do also say you can refill the pen, which I've tried before. I have multiple, well, not multiple pens, I have 2 pens. And one of those I marked, this is the one I tried to refill. Basically, you just, I wouldn't recommend doing this, but you can refill this cartridge if you take it off, and you get these little syringe things, and you can put any kind of ink you want in there, and you fill it in with the syringe. But I wouldn't recommend that because it kind of ruins the bristles a little bit. And I found that doing that, putting my own ink in it, some like rapidograph drawing ink, it came out too fast, and it was just kind of a mess. So I wouldn't recommend refilling that way, but you can buy your own fairly inexpensive refills, cartridges. And that's it. It's pretty much the basics on your Pentel brush pen, pocket brush pen. It's very nice, compact. You can carry it around in your pocket with you. And that's, you know, it's pretty much it. Look forward to seeing the art you make. Sorry, I just thought of one very last thing. This is kind of, as I was saying, more for like illustrative. So generally, I would start in pencil. You know, you sketch out your image of what you're drawing, and then you kind of figure out. Some people draw directly with the Pentel or with the brush pens, but that takes a lot of skill. So this, as I was saying, is more of a comic book thing in the sense that it's sort of starting with pencil and then going over that pencil and inking it. So it's still like figuring out your basic sort of design in pencil, then taking the brush pen, and then from this point you go in and you figure out, okay, well now here I'm going to go over my pencil lines, and I sort of start to refine it a little bit, and I can kind of then from this point add in more details and things, you know, like this, and then I know, okay, then his mouth's going to be here, and then I kind of have this sort of sketched out here, and then this is where you would then start adding in, you know, more of your details. So just keep in mind as you're drawing, you can always do that kind of style to where you pencil it first and then just go over it with your ink with the brush pen, and then from that point, you know, you can start to add in your details and things, and then after you have this sort of all sketched out, going really fast on this, but then after you have it all sketched out, then you could go ahead once it dries, and then you could erase all that pencil, all the pencil line. But again, you don't really want to do that until the very end, and also when it's completely dry. Otherwise, if it's not dry and you go to erase it, it's going to smear it. So you want to wait at least 10-15 minutes before you then try erasing the pencil. Alright, bowl. Okay, one very last thing. When you go to actually erase this, I would recommend using one of these kneaded erasers, because it gives you more control over the eraser, and then you don't have all the messy crumb stuff. And then what you're going to notice, you can feel it's kind of dry. Sometimes you can even, like, I do this little stamp thing, and I make sure, and I see if it doesn't come off on my hand, then I know I can erase it. But you can also put a paper towel and do one dab and then peel it off. And anyway, so what you do is very lightly go over top of this, like that. You see very easily the pencil just sort of melts away. And then sometimes you're going to notice the eraser will pick up some of the marker or some of the ink, so then I actually would go back over that again, and then maybe some of the lines that got pulled off, I would go back in there and darken up any lines that I wanted to kind of be a little bit richer, darker line. I would go back in and just keep adding details. But again, this is all just personal preference. It's really your own, however you draw. Is going to be how you approach using the pen. But these are just some basic tips, and you can kind of sort of find your own way as you start working with it and sort of experimenting and seeing just what it can do, and if it even fits into your particular style of how you want to draw. So there it is. That's it for real this time. Howdy-bo.